What's up? Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Setha, good morning. Chi, Adam, MV0413, good morning. Alex, welcome in, everybody. How's everybody doing? How did everybody do this week? It's looking to be a choppy inside day Friday. We'll see what happens. We'll get into the analysis and everything here in just a moment. We make sure everybody from the Flipping Futures private mentorship group is here. Tell me in the chat if you're here from Flipping Futures, put a W. I know we're bouncing back and forth between lives on Discord and YouTube, so make sure everybody's got the memo. We're here. Daniel, welcome in. Pat. Seth, yeah, Marvin. Welcome in, everybody. Steve, welcome. Good morning. If you're not here from the group, I recommend checking out the recordings I posted from the last couple days. I don't always share our private live stream recordings, but I thought they were really good analysis for everyone to review. And so I decided to share those so people can see what it's like, you know, what we do every day. But welcome in, everybody. It's Friday. Happy Friday. Almost the weekend. Columbus Day this weekend. It's not a market holiday on Monday, but it's a holiday nonetheless. Or I don't know, they changed it Indigenous People Day or something. But either way, not a market holiday, but it may be interesting to see if the market kind of behaves like we have a long weekend, because maybe a lot of people will be taking Monday off anyway. So the market may behave like an off day anyway. And that might be especially true considering we're just in the middle of this balance range that we've been in for like 6-7 days now. So let me pull over my charts here. Let me first, we'll just talk through the 4-hour because, you know, we can get a good idea of where we're at here. Take a snip of this, put it on the screen. We have had some nice up and down volatility this week, despite, you know, the consolidation range. We've been in like a 50-point range for a couple weeks, but up and down volatility is decent. Caught some good moves up and down. All right, so looking at the 4-hour time frame, you can see here I've been watching kind of that higher low or higher high trend line that formed. Caught shorts off that a couple weeks ago once we finally rejected it pretty well. But now we've been holding kind of the flip side, the higher low trend line. And we could draw a new one up here, but not a super big trend line guy. I'm just kind of using it to gauge the trend that we're on right now. But you can see over the last couple weeks here, we've been pretty much in this balance range between this key area to the low side, 67.45 to 67.55 area, and to the upside, really just 6,800 plus or minus a few points. These are just areas of interest where I watch the order flow and stuff around. So it's not like, you know, I'm not like pinpointing a zone to just like buy or sell on a candle chart. No, it's just an area of interest that I'm watching. We can see that to the upside and to the downside. And we kind of broke under this trend line yesterday, recaptured it, but now we're just kind of flirting around here, consolidating right in the middle of this range. So that's what I'm watching. I'm not super interested in getting chopped up like right in the middle of this. You know, we caught the high of this and the low of this multiple times this week. And now we're kind of just flatlining dead. So we'll see how this develops. Send this in the chat here. I'm not live in the Discord as well because last time I did, I had a bunch of issues with like it was struggling to stream to both, like the mic and the video kept working and not working. And it was just, it just was not working well. I'll have to test it again and maybe like when we're not live trading, test it again and see if we can get it working properly. All right. So let's look at the 15-minute chart now and get a better picture of what the exact same thing that I was talking about. So 15-minute chart, this area around 70 to 75 is an area that I've been talking about for what feels like weeks. It's kind of played a key pivotal role both above and below it. We've seen a lot of interesting order flow activity around there. So I'm continuing to watch this area today, and you can see how we kind of bounced off that overnight here as well. So if I drew that, and I'll pull up the volume profiles and we'll talk through that in a second. But that's interesting to me. We are kind of holding lower highs though now. So it's kind of mixed signals. We're kind of like holding this zone here, but also kind of like making weaker highs off of it. This trend line on the lower time frame, that's that 4-hour trend line. I'm not watching it too much. Honestly, I could probably remove it from my charts now because we've just kind of traded up and down through it the last couple days. Yeah, I'm watching that, Logan. We'll get to that on the volume profile stuff here in a second. So really here in the middle of this, I don't love so much. Maybe if we get a quick dip that recaptures quickly, I may look to take it long. Or if we get a quick pop over there, I may look to take it short. Kind of looking for just mean reversions until proven otherwise. Now that we're just like narrowing more and more into this balance range, right? We're narrowing more and more middle of the balance range. I probably am, this looks like a mess. Sorry, guys. As we narrow more and more into this balance range, I'm mostly becoming more and more just observing for quick scalps for mean reversions. You can see we just continue to narrow in this balance range here. So yeah, I'll get to that in a second, Joe. So that's a 15-minute chart, and the 4-hour chart kind of get a good picture overall where we're at. Now, kind of to add more mixed signals to the mix here, take a look at the volume profile. You can see on every like sharp aggressive drop, we've made a higher low and built a lot of volume. The brakes got put on it by buyers, defended, and built a lot of volume, and then grinded it back up. And seeing it again here, the brakes got put on the sharp aggressive drop, and then we grinded back up. Now we're kind of building volume here in the middle. We do have this area of interest under these prior day lows. This is what the kids call a low volume node, where we sold off aggressively and the market did not spend much time transacting there. So it left an area of low volume, and that's typically, an area where sellers in this case would defend, because that's where sellers were very aggressive. If you look at it from a market structure perspective, this is also an area we could say like a supply zone. We built volume here and then broke through it to the downside. So multiple things. We got like the low volume node there where we can just see from the volume profile perspective how aggressive sellers were dropping through there to the bottom of this balance range. We can see how price consolidated up there. Now the market's about to open, and I'm still kind of talking through this because we're basically nowhere near right now where I'm looking to take a trade. So we'll talk through it and we'll observe it this morning. I'm also having a pretty big week. Caught some big moves this week up and down. So on Fridays, like my general process is to kind of look for a base hit in the morning. Volume and volatility, like from my experience, just tends to decline. Not always, every day is different. Every week is different. New things happen all the time. But just a general rule of thumb, I tend to see volume and volatility die out on Fridays the later it gets in the day. So I typically, especially if we're in the middle of a range, I'm, typically looking at, just a quick scalps. There's a significant amount of buying here right off the open. So being that we're kind of balancing on this knife point here in the middle of this range, this area here kind of being that knife point, we could, if we kind of teeter one way or the other and aggressive participants come in, we could, quickly shoot to the supply or demand that exists at the high and low of this balance range. But if we don't, then we could just continue to chop through it there. So I'm going to be observing what develops here this morning. We kind of lack super key levels other than the high and low of this balance range. We have that low volume node to the upside. So if we see a quick pop over the overnight highs into, 93 to 96 area, then we could see that mean reversion setup. And so what I would be looking for there is, like, we have this this is actually the point of control there too. But if we have a quick pop into that spot and sellers reject, then we could possibly just have a mean reversion there to get short and not get too greedy with it crazy. We're just kind of target the middle of the range. And on the flip side, if we drop and we fail to break down, then we may have the pop there back to the middle of the range. Now, if we get super crazy and somehow manage to get over this and trend on this Friday, then that will be new information, and we will take that new information to develop new setups. But in the current context, it's not the first thing that I'd be looking for. But, at any point, some news could come out. Also, we do have Michigan consumer blah, blah, blah news at 10 a.m. So here's that pop into 93s here. Let's watch what happens as we sweep over these overnight highs. There are some offers sitting up here. Some offers sitting up there. There has been, just looking at the footprint chart here. Let me just snip it, tag on it. Why do I always do that? Just looking at the 5-point footprint chart here this morning. Come on, you silly thing. There has been just a substantial amount of buying all morning since like 5-something a.m. So substantial amount of buying here. So let's watch that. But I don't think it would be great to go long here, just from a risk versus reward perspective. You don't really want a long, kind of an extended move up into the top of a balance range / supply area. Like, yeah, it might work this time, but over time, that's probably not a great move, not a great setup. Does all that make sense to everybody? Did I miss anybody's comment here? Let me know you guys' thoughts. If you guys are seeing something similar. Good morning, Johnny, Daniel. Yeah, so here's that pop. I didn't really see anything to go short here other than just these offers here. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I'm just observing that sellers were really aggressive there. Why not? And we're kind of narrowing into a balance range. So I'm just observing the conditions. And if I see us fail to break above that low volume node to the upside and significant selling comes in, then I'll just go with it probably for a quick mean reversion back to around, the 80s, 85s. Yeah, I'm not sure why I would long into that, Alex. I'm confused with you, sir. If we get above 93, 96 and buyers are strong, then maybe I'll, go with it preempting a breakout into the all-time highs, but just not an ideal setup, really. We have, like, looking at the 4-hour, we have been doing this thing where we keep poking new highs and then dropping off aggressively, but failing to make new lower lows. This is something that I talked about yesterday in the live stream. You can see how we're kind of making a little bit of an upward channel here, how we poke the highs and reject, poke the highs and reject, poke the highs and reject, but each rejection, gets absorbed, makes a higher low and grinds back. But just because we come into this 93, 96 area, it's just something I'm observing. I want to be clear to why not detail. I'm not like just shorting the second price pops into there. It's just, I'm just observing what happens there, really. And we also have all these offers sitting here at the 95. So that's a passive seller. Now, I've talked about this before with the absorption thing. The aggressive participants may just completely overtake this passive seller here and just blast right through him. We'll just see how it reacts. I don't really see any reason to go either way here right now. Clearly, there's just a lot of buyers and not really anybody interested in selling right now. That could change on a dime, but right now, it's not really much interest in selling. And this thing is just, getting bought up. But, the risk versus reward of just going long here doesn't really make sense for me anywhere, at least for how the setups that I look to trade. I would just be kind of like arbitrarily buying because the market's going up and, guessing where to put a stop loss. And then, yeah, that just wouldn't be a great business plan overall in trading for me personally. Might work this time, but the next 100 times, I don't know. But if somebody has a strategy for that, by all means, don't let me talk you out of it. You do you. That's just not my strategy, how I trade. My Dom Pro didn't reset. I think it did. 85s. Where did we open? 85s. Yeah. Yeah, it did. Because otherwise I'd have data down here to the 81s. Break and retest on NQ. Nice. We're coming up into this area of possible supply, but it is all-time highs. So, take that with a grain of salt. Be very cautious shorting all-time highs. What do you have delta bubbles set to? I'm not sure what you are asking. Joe, it was yours that didn't reset at the open. Trying to trip me up. Yeah, we've just been slicing up and down through this range the last couple weeks. So we're up in those 6800s now. We'll see what happens here. Point of control just shifted up here to 6800. A lot of volume hit, a lot of buying just hit. Looking at the footprint, positive delta, 300 lots, 300 lots. It's more of what I was talking about just on the, draw this here. Just looking at the cumulative delta on my 5-point ranges, just all buying. All buying. And if this thing just keeps grinding straight up and goes all the way into new all-time highs, and we just do that today, I'll be honest with you guys, I just didn't have that on my cards for a trade today. All right, so here's some selling coming in. We did pop with some aggressive buying over 6,800. Let's see if this holds and buying gets weaker if we pop and drop back down towards those 80s or not, or if we just keep, squeezing. That would be interesting. Offer reappearing there. Some heavier selling coming in. We'll see what happens here. We do have that news coming out at 10 a.m. Bear in mind. I do like how it's now struggling here, but we'll see if we get some follow through from sellers, and then the pop gets weak if that happens. Draw a snip here. So if this fails up here and we get some actual follow through from selling, if we get that, I would look kind of for that. Like this. If we, fail, kind of want to see that momentum shift. If that makes sense. Yeah, more selling coming in here. Do have that news coming out in 17 minutes. I don't know if it's going to be too high impact or anything. We'll see. We'll see. Just letting it cook, letting it develop. There is quite a bit of positive delta stacking up here around 6801. See that 700 lot, 600 lot there. So let's see if that now holds above. Look at that. See if that holds above or shoots up, fakes out, and recaptures back below. Either way, that would be interesting. I don't really see any reason to go against this right now. And I don't see a lot to chase it either. 14-ish minutes till news. A lot of buying surged in here, and then the offers just kind of stacked up on it. So it didn't quite go anywhere. We'll see if it continues to squeeze higher or not. I wouldn't sit here and just try to fight it, though, trying to just short the pops. That would not work out well. Just see what develops. Nice, Pat. Caught the break and retest on the NQs. I know. I'm sorry. Can the baby mute his mic? Oh my goodness. I know. He's having a hard morning. He's kind of sick. Sorry. Believe me, it's probably more not fun for me sitting here trading, listening to it. All right, so here's some sellers. Interesting. But so far, every time some sellers have came in, it just squeezed a new high, squeezed a new high, squeezed a new high. But what's interesting right here is this kind of this buying surge here is a little interesting to me. How it surged over 8,500, 8,500. What in the world? 6,800. But yeah, kind of straight up. So, you know, zooming out, it's like maybe we don't short that. I don't know. But I am, you know, continuing to kind of look for mean reversions as we rally up. Obviously, we're at all-time highs, and that gets hairy trying to take shorts, but we're still kind of in this supply zone, and this is kind of what I'm talking about here, is just this area that's been sold into multiple times. So see if we get a little pop that fails. I'm liking this selling now. Yeah, I might have missed it if it just tanks now, which would be very annoying. See if we get a little pop. Son of a gun. See if we get a pop that fails around 6,800. There's a lot of negative delta that came in between 6,804 all the way down to 6,798. So if we can get a pop basically from like 98 to 04, I'd love to take that short. Nice rejection off there. But you guys see the fake out there on all that aggressive buying as we swept over? Damn. Might have missed it. Might have missed this one. I've been catching these a lot this week. But we're already dropping, because the target would just be a mean reversion, back down to the 90s to 80s-ish. And we already got a lot of that juice. So we'll see. See if we get a pop and offers appear again. Or offers appear again. There's one here at 97. We'll see. Yeah, I like around 98. Dang, it's just this has happened a lot of times this week. We've gotten those. I didn't think we were going to get it, and then we did get the pops to get an entry on. But in hindsight, after seeing this, I could have just immediately gone with the selling here around the 03s, speculating that this would happen. Because sometimes when you wait for the selling to come in like this to short a retest, sometimes you never get that retest and it just plunges. But after seeing this significant sweep here, and then the buying failed to break out further over 6,800, that would have maybe been an opportunity to just go, either here with this large selling that came in, or maybe here when it just fizzled. Here's a pop. Let's see if we get up here and see if it fails. But the problem is we dropped all the way to the overnight highs around 67.92, and we're kind of bouncing off those. Nice, Marcus. That was a very, very clean catch. That was sharp, dude. I would say the only thing that makes me a little hesitant now shorting this pop is that selling dropped us all the way down to the 92s, which was the overnight highs area. So that I would have liked to just target a pullback into like into the overnight range. So like overnight highs like around 92 to 75, just a sharp drop into there. So that's one thing that I'm looking at. Did he really? Carmine caught that short. Yeah. In hindsight, this was a great entry short here. After seeing that, and then seeing this aggressive selling, I think for me, the best short is right here around 04, 03, and just go with that aggressive selling after seeing that sweep fail over that 6,800 level. Carmine might have beat me today if he caught that. I'm not watching that, so. Nice, Daniel. Yeah, I wanted to just see a little pop after seeing this aggressive selling, and it just never came, and we're just dumping. So might have missed it today, guys. But yeah, that was the fake out. If you're in flipping futures, the setup that we broke down in detail, you know what I'm talking about there. But yeah, seeing a sweep over that 6,800 with all that large buying and then got smoked. But yeah, I missed it because I wanted to see that selling come in and then just like one more weaker pop of buying, and we just never got the weaker pop of buying. It just flushed. And the only problem with it now, we did get this little pop here, which was nice. It was just a couple points under my 68 area that I wanted to catch. So the only problem with it now is we're coming back to the opening range, like around the 9:30 open and the overnight highs. So if buyers defend there really strong, it depends on how we pop, if we pop, but it might be too late now, to be honest with you. But if sellers get really strong here, because that was the higher time frame balance range high. If sellers get really strong today now after testing that, we could potentially see a flush all the way back down to the 67.55s. This is a Bookmap. Somebody asked. That's Bookmap. And if you're interested in it, I do have a discount code that I'll share with you. Here you go. Oh, let me just copy the text. Yeah, this is my favorite overall like order flow analysis tool. Yeah, news coming out in a couple minutes. Justin, thanks for the reminder. 10 a.m. news, Michigan consumer, da 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 da, expectations, et cetera, et cetera. Michigan 1-year inflation expectations, 5-year expectations, Michigan consumer expectations, Michigan consumer sentiment. Sometimes it can spark a little volatility. We don't have much else going on, so people may be waiting for that one. Haven't even looked. Is there any update on the government shutdown stuff? That'll probably have an impact whenever that. Haven't seen any real updates there. I think it could be another pretty extended government shutdown. The other thing that I use is footprint charts. I have that set up on Sierra Chart and Tradeovate. I generally recommend Tradeovate because it's very user friendly and such. So we'll see what happens on this pop. The only thing I'll say is it's not as good to me anymore because we already kind of tested that opening range and the overnight highs. So it makes it a little more iffy on my end if that gets supported, and VWAP. So we had VWAP, overnight highs, the opening range here. So like multiple things there. So we'll see on this bounce here. I mean, I am still interested. We just tagged 99s there. It's just I'm still interested. It's just not as good quality. Let me put it that way. Because I do think if we do fail here, we could potentially drop all the way to the overnight lows. So see if we see any kind of larger offers appearing or anything. We are right at that 98, 99-ish area. That news is coming out right now. Right now. You can see how all the passive orders here on the heat map just disappeared before the news. Tape gets thin. That's when you can get some sporadic price moves. So we popped right into that zone on the news here. I want to short it. I do. I just don't see much. Buying is like failing here and getting weak, so I could just go with that. Man. We did get the retest right into that box and dropped off it, huh? Son of a biscuit eater. Dang. We got it. I should have. I don't know, guys. I didn't see much. I wanted to click sell there, and I didn't see much. I didn't really see any offers appearing, and it was just a little sporadic. It would have just been a little bit of a coin flip. And I didn't see much right at the moment to do it. But you actually know what? Now that I'm zooming in here, we did have these offers right here that pulled, and then it reacted the same way. So it's like they pulled. I think some people talk about that, pulled, and it still reacted perfectly. So interesting right there. Interesting right there. Yeah, I think what was iffy for me is that we already dropped all the way down here to that area that I was kind of looking to target, and then failed and bounced. And it did work perfectly, but it happened. I think what made it questionable this time is how it happened right on the 10 a.m. news. And so I was just like waiting to see something. You'd see that literally literally happened on the news. And I typically that like minute or two around news coming out, I just kind of take a breath. I don't like to jump in trades like the minute news comes out. And so that happened like right on the news, and I was like waiting to see something, and it just tanked. So, happening on the news, what's in my head is like, yeah, this happened this time, but it could have just gone the opposite way and blasted through my stop loss on the news too. So that I think what was in my head is how this retest happened right on the 10 a.m. news. And that kind of made me hesitant. But you guys see, I mean, the analysis worked perfect. The zone worked perfect. It was just a kind of an unfortunate timing where it happened right at 10 a.m. on the dot. And it made me kind of hesitant to pull the trigger. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Logan's got a great point. Even how the offers pulled, it still just stalled there, and buyers just couldn't get over that. But being that it happened like right at 10 a.m., I was expecting we could see something like this up or down right there. And so it made it kind of tricky to sit there and pull the trigger on a trade. You know what I mean? It's I'm okay, at times trading right around news, but like click and buy or sell like within 30 seconds of potentially some higher impact news is not my cup of tea. So sometimes, even though it sucks, and I really like, you guys have heard me talking about it all morning. I was looking for this setup, and it sucks to not be in it, but it's better to make good decisions and not take kind of gambly trades, at least for my rules and how I trade. My rules generally are I'm not looking to click buy or sell within like a minute or two of news coming out. I'm not looking to the one that I don't necessarily regret not entering here, even though that was my planned setup. It just because of that 10 a.m. news thing. I do kind of regret not catching this here with this heavy selling after seeing that sweep there. I think what made me a little hesitant here is just how we saw the same thing occur right at 6,800. So it was like, what was different than here to here? It was a little bit larger size. It was a little higher. There was more offers. So that was a little different. But I guess seeing this and then seeing it happen again right here, I just wanted to wait a second and see that heavy selling come in and then short a pop, but never got the pop. So no, Logan, I used to struggle on Mondays and Fridays, and I've talked about that a lot. Not so much anymore, but there's a lot of just like psychology things I think that trip people up on Mondays and Fridays, starting out the week and then ending the week. On Fridays, a lot of people want to FOMO into trades and make back money they lost during the week, or if they have a really good week, they want to make even more. So I think there's some human psychology factors that amplify trading struggles on Mondays and Fridays, at least for me in the past. Some pretty aggressive buying actually just stepped in here off these 67.90s. So we're still holding that opening range. Pretty aggressive buying step in. You can see the bid here at the 89s. Right here where all this aggressive buying was on the open. See how we hit it with some aggressive selling here and then weaker selling on the second retest. And buyers kind of slammed it. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't think I would short this now. Some really aggressive buying coming in here. It might work again, but the fact that we've already like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times like tried to drop into this zone, 1, 2, 3, 4 times tried to drop into this zone here and didn't break it down, and now see how the buying is like increasing in aggression and size on this pop after the selling got weak here. So we had aggressive selling into the zone, failed, retested with weaker selling, failed, really aggressive buying coming in. It might fail again here, but it doesn't look so good for me in this zone here. Just not the most A+ trade anymore. Maybe if we get another pop higher that fails, higher up in this zone. But to me, this is looking like kind of like a danger zone here. Let me snip it so I can talk to you about it. Just so we're clear here. Just really quick. So see how we had this selling and then weaker selling, and that bid appeared here. And it was right here where all this aggressive buying was. And we've tried it now 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And then on this pop, a lot more aggressive buying came in. See how the buying, See how the buying like accelerated this time after that weak selling failed for the fourth time to get under this area and this bid defended it? That to me changes the context of trying to short a pop into here, to be honest. It could still work. We could still go up here and then reject, but it just doesn't. It's instead of being like over here was like A, and then this was like an A minus, and now this is kind of like a B minus setup now trying to take it. You see how like I'm just like kind of grading the quality of the setup is kind of like not as good. Yeah, the majority of my trades are reversals. But it even I do trade with trends a lot and I do trade trending moves and breakouts, but it'll even just be like a shorter term reversal within that. So like a break and retest. Break and retest is kind of a reversal, right? Because it's pulling back when you enter. Like say you break out of a level and it's pulling back, you're catching a reversal within that trending move, really. So same thing, just different context, different location. But it really depends on conditions and analysis and context, which if you're in flipping futures, the private trading community that I run, we are doing a call at 11 after this to deep dive into levels and analysis and context and how to align them with trade setups. So I think it's going to be good. It's going to be a good one. We've talked about a lot of trade setups. We've talked about a lot of different things, but this one I think is going to be good today. So just kind of zooming out a little bit on the 15-minute chart here. Let's take a look. We're kind of holding in the upper third of this balance range, right? So like this is kind of the balance range that I was talking about between this zone here and this zone down here. We've been kind of narrowing into it, but we're kind of holding up here. So I don't know. Watch out. See what happens. It may still fail and drop all the way back down here. That's a possibility. But if it keeps kind of holding here, it maybe goes and squeeze and pops these highs again. It seems like a few people actually caught this setup up here short initially off that 6,800 failed breakout initially. A few people catch that. So there's some more aggressive selling coming in. So if that breaks down again, then that would be another lower high now. We'll see. I think I'd probably still be sitting here if we were in shorts from up here. But for me, initiating a position isn't looking so hot between like initiating a position between like here and here is questionable for me because we kind of like I said there was reasons I wasn't so loving it for a short there. But kind of not loving initiating in that range there. Possibly, Joe. Yeah, like that's very true. Assad said the best trade is always a hard trade when nobody wants to buy or sell at that level for me. Yeah, that's true, but you got to be careful trying to catch ultimate highs and lows like that, because you can also have a recipe for just a lot of small losses at a very low win rate. Certainly you want to be early in before, because we need aggressive participants to come in and move our trade in that direction. So you gotta be in before the crowd, right? But once the crowd, so kind of to that point, like you want to be in before the crowd, but once the crowd comes in and we're in the middle here, kind of moving from one key level to another, then I'm like, the crowd is already involved here. It would be better for me to just accept missing it than initiate a bad position. Yeah, Joe, I am. Joe asked. I posted that in the Discord. Yeah, we're gonna have that lesson. It'll be recorded if you can't make it live. All right, so now more selling is coming in under that. So certainly possible we could go all the way down to those like 67.55s today. Certainly possible. The best entry zone was between like 68.05 and 67, like 99, 98. And if you didn't catch it there, it's just not great risk versus reward. So like if you didn't catch it pretty much in this box here, the risk versus reward to me wasn't great. But it's still working. I mean, this is the setup that I've been talking about since the pre-market, since this opening rally. I've been talking about finding that, failed pop to go short. Just didn't catch it today, right? So far, could still see something develop here. I would not be like vehemently opposed to like a break and retest to the short side. The problem is though, is initiating in the middle of range like this on a break and retest type of thing doesn't seem great. So like, look at this kind of the middle of this range. Like, yeah, it could work, but this was the better fade and supply zone up here. This just looks like, if we don't get that, it could just go back to that. So, it might happen though. Might happen. Guys, sometimes being a good trader does not mean catching every single move. It just means following the plan and setups. And you have to go into every day. If you do miss a move, just being at peace with accepting that you missed it. Because if you go into every trading day, like with the mindset that you're trying to force a positive outcome, and if you miss a move, you're trying to force another trade, you're going to hurt yourself over time. So I missed this one and I just have to be at peace with it and not, I can look for another good trade, but I got to make sure it's another good trade and not just a FOMO. I missed it. Let me try to force another trade. But it is one of the most frustrating things I think in trading is having a plan and having a setup that we're looking for and it works out perfectly and just not getting an entry on it or not executing. I'm going to go back and review this to see like myself in replay. I think here, the entry I was looking for was the aggressive selling and then the pop to short, which we never got. So that caused me some hesitation here. I'm just thinking out loud and, sharing with you guys. And then here was again, the setup that I wanted to short the retest in here. You can see that aggressive selling intraday low volume node here. But it happened like 10 seconds into the news pop. So that again caused me some hesitation. And then this pop here, it was just not good risk reward. I just didn't want to enter here, like, especially after seeing us hold this zone multiple times. Like, yes, it worked and, caught another move, but that's not a part of that would have just been me FOMO trading to take that. And again, even if you catch a win, if it's a bad setup, a FOMO trade, not good. A losing trade doesn't mean necessarily it was a bad trade. Or sorry, yeah. A losing trade does not always necessarily mean it was a bad trade. And a winning trade does not always necessarily mean it was a good trade. I always try to put myself in the mindset, like, especially at times like right now, where I'm thinking about like, okay, I'm not thinking about the outcome that I'm trying to have right now today. Like, I already had a big week. I'm up, like 7-8 grand this week already, which is good for me. It's a solid week. But I'm always trying to put myself in the mindset where I'm like, I'm not trying to have any particular outcome today. I'm just trying to follow the repeatable setups. And I'm thinking about the outcome over the next 100 trades that I take, not the outcome of this one particular trade. The only thing that I'm focused on this one particular trade is just executing the setup that I have a repeatable plan and system for, and then just managing the risk. And that's it. But I'm not, going into the trading day, I'm not trying to force a positive outcome. I'm not trying to force trades. I'm only just in the short term looking to execute the system and manage the risk. That's it. And then what I'm thinking about over the long term is if I do that for the next 100 trades, then I'll have, a good, solid, positive outcome. But if I start, doing random trades, even if, short term, I make some money on it, over the next 100 trades, I'm going to lose money if I'm not being very systematic and repeatable with the trades that I'm taking. And you have to get to the point where you really know that and understand that for yourself in trading. Otherwise, you're going to constantly up and down, up and down. And most people go up and then down, 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 up, down, down, down. Does that make sense? Guys are just getting my real-time thoughts here. What's kind of interesting is, look at this. So all this selling for the last, since 9:45. So for the last 30 to 40 minutes of selling has not even taken out the first 10 or 15 minutes of buying. The first 15 minutes of buying, we've had like 45 minutes of selling, and all of that selling over the last 45 minutes has not even taken out the first 15 minutes of buying. So that's an interesting perspective. Yeah, chopping around VWAP. So that's why, if you guys remember, so I think this was kind of in my subconscious here. if you guys remember, what I talked about since the pre-market, since the analysis, since the game plan is mean reversions, which so like catching the top, target the mean. And like once we got the drop down here and we're popping, I was like kind of middle of the range, not like the plan wasn't really like a very directional move. You know what I mean? A directional top reversal where we go for a big downside move. The plan was quick mean reversions today. And I missed it up here and I missed it here because of the things that I already covered. So to me, it just doesn't look so good trying to catch like a directional move on the day. I was just looking for an extreme to fade for a mean reversion scalp. And I think that was kind of in my, I went through that with you guys in the game plan. It worked out. I just didn't catch it. And now I'm like, let me not change my game plan and now try to catch a directional move on the day just because I missed the mean reversion short, right? That would be a stupid thing to do because that wasn't part of my game plan, especially in the middle of this 7-day balance range, right? It might work, but it's not part of my plan and setup for the day. All right, guys, probably going to wrap up the stream here today early. I'm not seeing it. I'll update you guys in the Flipping Futures group throughout the day. And we will have our call at 11 to go through, that coaching webinar for market context, technical levels, order flow levels. We're going to go kind of deep dive into all of that today. But I'm not going to chop myself up in the middle of this range. We're an hour in now on a Friday, and we're still inside the 15-minute opening range. So keep that in mind as you look for trades here. I'm still open to kind of the fade the extreme mean reversion, but keep in mind we're an hour in and we're inside the 15-minute opening range. And we haven't broken above or below that really. So keep that in mind as you approach the day, and keep in mind the context that today's Friday and volume and volatility tends to die off later into the day. And we kind of have a holiday weekend, not really because the market is open on Monday, but we kind of have a holiday weekend. So put yourself in the place of other market participants, right? Are maybe a lot of people just going ahead and taking Monday off and taking a mini vacation over the weekend. Maybe they're trying to get out of work early on Friday and not trade. Probably. So another reason that we could see volume and volatility die off and stay in this range. If new information presents itself, don't be opposed to accepting new information, but have that in mind of, possible scenarios that could play out, and it kind of paints the picture of what could happen today. All right, guys, for those of you just on YouTube, I'll see you probably in a pre-market stream on Monday. It'll be, been doing the pre-market streams to help people out a little bit on in the pre-market mornings. For those of you in Flipping Futures, we'll deep dive into this at 11, and I'll see you guys over in the Discord. If you're not in there and you'd like to be a part of it, you can check out the link in the description of this live stream or my YouTube channel. And if you have any questions or want to, ask me anything, shoot some ideas, talk to me about it. Best way to reach me is on Instagram. You can send me a DM. I'm very responsive to people there. So appreciate you guys, and I'll see you over there. Peace.